I had mentioned earlier that Radical Dreamers has an important place in the series to me, even if it's canonically been relegated to an alternate dimension in the Chronoverse, as per Chrono Cross. In brief, Radical Dreamers is significant to me for two reasons. One, in Dreamers, Kid is not the daughter clone of Shala, like in Cross, but actually is Shala. Instead of merging with the Time Devourer, Shala gets de-aged, memory wiped, and sent to a safer point in time by the Frozen Flame during the time of the Ocean Palace incident. The Frozen Flame is implied to have been residing inside and powering the Mammon Machine. Just like in Cross, Shala ends up in 1004 AD and is found by Luca and raised in her home-cum-orphanage. This point bolsters my second and main reason for Dreamer's personal significance to me, which is that Magus has a happy ending, even at the beginning of Dreamers, because he has managed to find Shala. It's canonically uncertain just how Magus traversed time and space to locate her, but the final two credit scenes in Prophet's Guile, depicting Magus summoning a gate and lurking in the shadows of Luca's orphanage, offer a plausible way in which this could have occurred. During Magus's defeat at the hands of Chrono in the game, I mentioned that the Masamune may have had greater strength due to it being repaired with fresh Dreamstone, or by being handled by Frog himself. Let's dive deeper into this, but starting with the first point. So, when Cyrus acquires the Masamune at Denadoro Mountains, it had been lying around for tens of thousands of years. It was still in one piece, of course, and wasn't broken until Magus defeated Cyrus moments later, but it may have lost its original luster since antiquity. When the party retrieves fresh Dreamstone in prehistory to restore the Masamune, Melchior and Luca or Robo begin a lengthy process to restore the Masamune that seemed to involve magic, or in the case of Robo, magic-adjacent, spells. Since the Dreamstone was acquired from before the arrival of Lavos, this Dreamstone was also untainted by his energy. I believe this process rejuvenated and reinvigorated the Masamune to a higher standard than Cyrus had found it at. It's amazing how far a little TLC can go. But I think there's another factor that made the Masamune more powerful, and that's Frog himself. Not his strength per se, but his willpower and his dream. In Chrono Cross, we see that the Masamune becomes a sword associated with evil, not because it's evil per se, but because it is made of Dreamstone, which makes the Masamune harness the energy of its wielder. Dreamstone is the choice material to capture Lavos' energy because it has the capability of capturing a being's radiant essence. I believe that Melchior already knew that the Masamune could be corrupted, and thus infused the blade with the dream beings Maza and Mune to guard the blade, and only allow it to be used by those deemed worthy, to sort of carry Melchior's will along with the blade. But anyways, Frog has a very specific will and very specific dream. In a general sense, he wants to do right by his kingdom by assuming the role of trusty protector. But the emotional undercurrent of this is that he wants nothing more than to restore his honor to himself by avenging the death of Cyrus by defeating Magus. Frog himself is the key element that makes Magus weak to the Masamune, arguably. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I believe the townsfolk said only the Masamune could defeat Magus simply because it was a legendary sword. But Magus ensured his weakness to the Masamune by killing Cyrus in front of Frog, and Frog infusing his vengeance energy into the Masamune, which is furthermore bolstered by Maza and Mune allowing him to wield the blade. Also during Magus's defeat by the party, I had touched upon the topic of Magus's ability to summon Lavos. It seems like a rare skill to possess, and I wasn't quite content with the simple answer of Magus just being a powerful mage. I think a fair bit of knowledge may have been passed down the ages from Zeal to the Mystics. For example, there's the link between the Zeal woman with Melchior's seed and Fiona's mystic seedling. If the woman doesn't burn her seedling in 12,000 BC, Fiona has her seedling in 600 AD. Oral knowledge may have similarly been passed down, although not all of it may have been properly understood or acted upon. There's also Medina's close proximity to the forest ruins, which used to be Zeal's North Palace, where elemental weaponry was locked up after Lavos' energy was to be the new energy source. The forest ruins are completely closed off in 600 AD, both by the surrounding forest and the blue magic seal. However, it could be possible that certain artifacts, like ancient Zealian tomes containing advanced magical knowledge, may have been easily accessible, perhaps by existing in unearthed portions of the Northern Palace, not blocked by a seal. It's true that the forest ruins may in fact be the entirety of the palace. Some unused maps of its interior suggest this, but I do find it curious that Medina set itself up so close to this Zealian power spot. In either case, a Lavos summoning spell must have been floating around, since there must have been a way to discover and communicate with Lavos through Zeal's previous power sources. If Magus's sheer magical prowess wasn't enough to power a successful summon, perhaps he was one of the few people who could decode an ancient Zealian summon, if written in some foregone Zealian dialect. Another topic thread that sprung forth from Magus's defeat at his castle is the large time gate that appears and throws Magus and Chrono and the gang through time. This is surely the original way that Lavos was transported onto the scene. Lavos is unique in that the immediate space around him, usually shown in a rippling blue pattern, creates a dimensional or gravitational warp. I liken it as being similar to the domain expansion from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's an innate local environment that Lavos radiates and possibly gives him something like a home field advantage. The Mammon machine inhabits a similar space, which is certainly due to it being a powerful Lavos interface. But why would this dimensional or gravitational warp become a time gate? This must be because of the presence of the party, namely the proximity of the pendant and/or gate key. Allow me to explain. Lavos' blue domain alters the space it inhabits. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that it could potentially affect temporal energies. However, what usually limits temporal shenanigans naturally is anti-annihilation energy. This is an energy that is briefly talked about in Cross as part of Chronopolis' counter-time experiment. Anti-annihilation energy, according to Chronopolis research, is the main thing in the way of Chronopolis having free reign over time. In order for time travel to happen, this energy must be absorbed or extracted. I believe this is called anti-annihilation energy because of the fact that a change to the timeline annihilates the original timeline by being thrown into the darkness beyond time. Thus, this energy exists to prevent timeline annihilation by preventing time travel, except for rare circumstances. In Cross, the frozen flame was going to be used to extract anti-annihilation energy to allow the counter-time experiment to work. I believe that other time travel apparatuses, like the pendant or the gate key, also absorb anti-annihilation energy. This is the foundation of how they work. Anyways, Lavos' portal in the original timeline could have punctured time, but was resisted by anti-annihilation energy. However, with the pendant or gate key nearby, enough anti-annihilation energy could have been absorbed to convert Lavos' portal into a gate. The time gate could have also appeared due to Magus being interrupted mid-spell, thus changing its outcome. There could also be an entity influence to preserve certain outcomes from that moment, namely that Magus wasn't around after that moment in the original timeline. The gate could be a last-ditch effort by the entity to ensure that the Mystic War ended when it did, due to Magus' supposed death by Lavos.